Good afternoon, friends. In the subject of fundamental of investor, I will be talking about investors protection. This is my third lecture on investors protection. As you are already aware, the size of Indian capital market is expanding at a very fast pace. Today, the market capitalization of Indian capital market is more than $3 trillion. The market capitalization ratio to GDP is 116%. That is, the market capitalization of the Indian stock market is larger than the GDP size of the GDP in the country. Every month, we are getting a SIP, Systematic Investment Plan, through Systematic Investment Plan, 12,000 crore rupees from the investors to be invested in the Indian capital market. 15,000 crores of rupees is coming every month through Employees Provident Fund and through other Provident Fund schemes to be invested in the Indian stock market or the capital market. The point I am trying to argue is that the size of Indian capital market is expanding at a very fast rate. Today, being the developing country, despite the developing country, we are the 9th largest market. When I say we, means the Indian stock market is the 9th largest stock market in the world in terms of the size, in terms of the market size of the stock market. What it implies is that the size is expanding, the number of investors is expanding, the demat accounts are expanding, and the investors' interest in the stock market is expanding at a fast rate. Never in the past in this country the demat accounts have been opened at such a pace as it is opening at present. Last month itself, in August 2022 itself, 2 lakhs of new demat accounts were being opened, which is a record. What it means is that the individual savings, personal savings of the individuals and the institutions is coming in the stock market. In the given scenario, it is very important that the interest of the investors, interest of the small investor as well as the large investors, must be protected by the regulator. And in this context, the Indian regulator of the stock market, that is the SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India, on which we have discussed in length in the past, right? They are doing a very wonderful job to protect the investors' interest. And in my previous lecture, 2 lectures on the investors' protection, I have talked a bit. I will take this lecture forward. And one of the measures that the SEBI or the regulator has taken is they have created an office of Securities Ombudsman. See, what do you mean by ombudsman? To start with, I would say an office has been created which is headed by a person, right, whose responsibility is to see to it that any investor grievance is being taken care within the due stipulated time. So in order to provide better and transparent system of redressal of grievances, the SEBI has issued Ombudsman Regulation 2003. Means in the way back in 2003 itself, the Ombudsman Regulation was being introduced in the country. These regulations provide regulations for appointments, qualifications, remuneration and disqualification of ombudsman. Ombudsman means any person appointed under regulation of these regulation. Means what I am saying is that Office of Ombudsman was created by regulation of 2003, and this ombudsman, in this act, a person is being appointed as a regulator, as a ombudsman officer, right? He is usually appointed to redress the grievances of investors against listed company or an intermediaries or both. Means all those companies which are listed on the stock exchange, whether it's BSE, NSE or any other stock exchange in the country, right? If the investor has any grievance against these companies, I'll be talking in detail about the type of grievances that normally comes before the ombudsman, right? So these grievances of the listed company as well as intermediary. Intermediary means merchant bankers, lead managers, stock brokers, mutual fund offices, mutual funds, right? So all these offices or all these intermediaries who acts as an intermediary between the investor and the agency, right? So if there is any complaint, any grievance against these agencies of the investors, these complaints or these grievances are being looked after by the ombudsman officer. And now, what are the qualifications? Who can be an ombudsman? What are the qualifications of an ombudsman? In order to be appointed as an ombudsman, a person shall be, number one, an Indian citizen. The person must be Indian citizen. Number two, of highly moral integrity, right? The person has a proven track record of moral integrity. Number three, not below the age of 45 years of age. These three things are required: Indian citizen, high person of high moral integrity, and not below the age of 45 years. Apart from this, either of these must be there, means any of these must be there. Who can be an ombudsman officer? Apart from these three things, a retired district judge or qualified to be appointed as a district judge, means either the person should be district judge or qualified, whatever the qualification that is being prescribed for appointing as a district judge, right? Those qualifications should be there with that person. Either of this, or having at least 10-year experience of serving in any regulatory body. Regulatory body means any of the regulatory body which are authorized in India for different agencies, right? So he must be having or she must be having experience of working for at least 10 years in this regulatory authority. Or it can be having knowledge and experience in the field of finance, law, economics, management, or an administrator for a period not less than 10 years. This is number three. Number four, an office bearer of Investors Association recognized by the board having an experience of not less than 10 years in matters related to investors' protection. So any of these four qualifications which I have just talked about, if it is there, means first three plus any of these four, if these qualifications are there with a person, that person can be appointed by the SEBI, by the Government of India as an ombudsman officer, or I will say as an ombudsman. Now, after discussing about the qualification, now let's talk of what are the powers and functions of ombudsman. What ombudsman officer does, what ombudsman do, right? So to receive complaint against listed company or any intermediary or both, I have already talked about it. To facilitate resolution of the complaints received, means whatever the complaints that is being received by the ombudsman, so the job of the ombudsman officer is to resolve these complaints, right? To settle these complaints, to settle disputes between the parties by amicable settlement. Means both the parties, they should call both the parties, listen to them and tries to amicably settle them. When I am saying calling, it is not necessary to call them personally. Through email, through communication, the parties can be called, and then on the basis of that their reply, the matter can be amicably settled. To adjudicate such complaints in case of non-settlement, means first job of the ombudsman officer is to get the matters resolved amicably. If it is not being resolved amicably, then it has to, means ombudsman officer has to settle this. So an investor may have, means what are the grounds of complaint under ombudsman? Means that on what basis the complaints can be sent to the ombudsman. An investor may have grievances with respect to the following: delay in issue or transfer of securities, although the points I am going to discuss in the electronic world, means through demat account, these problems have been resolved to a great extent, but still there are times, there are occasions when the investors come across these type of grievances even in the electronic mode. So delay in the issue of transfer of securities, if the transfer of security is being done from one person to another person, through one broker to another broker, through stock exchanges, right? So if there is any delay because of any reason, the complaint can be submitted to the ombudsman. Delay in receipt of refund orders, allotment letters in respect of public issue of securities, right? These days when SBA was being introduced in the country, when most of the time the amount, or rather through SBA, whenever IPO comes, initial public offer is being offered by the company, then in that case the money is being blocked in the bank account itself. Means money is not being transferred to the company's account, right? So this point SBA we have discussed in the past, so I am not repeating it. The only point I am making here is that if because of any reason there is any delay in the allotment of shares, in the refund of any sort of money in the public issue, that the complaint can be submitted to the Ombudsman. Non-receipt of dividend means that the company has declared the dividend, the date has passed, and the account has not been credited to the shareholder's account, then the complaint can be lodged to the Ombudsman. Non-receipt of annual statement of accounts. Every company is subject to or is supposed to send the annual statements, annual reports to all the shareholders. These days, physical reports, like earlier in the past, some 10 years back in India, the reports in the paper form used to be sent to all shareholders. In order to save the paper, these days at present, the annual statement or annual reports are being sent through email, registered email of the account holder. On a specific demand, suppose the person say I cannot read email, or I don't have an email account, especially in the old age group people, right? So then in that case, the annual statement can be demanded physically also, exceptional cases, but normally this statement of accounts is being sent through email, registered email of the shareholders. So if the registered shareholder has not received the email or the annual statement, it can file a complaint to the Ombudsman officer. Non-receipt of interest on delayed refund of application money, right? If the money is to be credited in the account of any sort, means in form of dividend, in form of refund, right? In that case, if there is a bond, the company has issued the bond and the money has not been credited to the account of the bond holder, so or the interest has not been credited to the account of the bond holder, in that case the complaint can be filed to the Ombudsman. Non-receipt of letter of offer or consideration in takeover or buyback of shares. Sometimes companies takes buyback of shares. Suppose at present the market rate of the company is, the share price is 350 rupees, and company comes out with a scheme that the company will buy back in the tender offer at the rate of rupees 500 from this date to this date, right? And an email is being sent. Normally the practice is an email is being sent to the all registered shareholders, that all those who wants to give back their shares in the buyback scheme which has been announced by the company, which has been duly approved by SEBI and other regulatory bodies, right? In that case, a letter must come, and then the letter, when I am saying the email, must be reached to the shareholders, and then shareholder has to tender its share or her share for the buyback, right? Sometime if a shareholder doesn't receive this communication, or the person has not received the communication because of any reason, in that case the complaint can be filed to the Ombudsman. Next is non-receipt of redemption amount from a mutual fund or return from collective investment schemes. An investor wants to get its mutual fund units redeemed from the mutual fund, right? And duly approved application has been submitted, right? And if the money is not being transferred in the account of the unit holder, in that case complaint can be filed to the Ombudsman. These days, friends, as you may be aware, that in case of the units, means in the mutual fund units, within 3 days, third day, the amount is being transferred in the account of the, at the most I am saying, is being transferred to the account of the unit holder, right? So if the amount is not being transferred because of any reason, the complaint can be filed to the Ombudsman officer. Grievance against intermediaries registered with SEBI. This point also I discussed earlier, that if there is any complaint against any of the intermediary, when I am saying complaint means grievance, to a shareholder or to a unit holder in case of mutual fund, or to a bond holder if the person is holding the bonds, right? So in that case, if there is any grievance against any intermediary, merchant bankers, lead managers, stock brokers, the complaint can be filed to the SEBI or through Ombudsman officer. Any grievance in respect of public right or bonus issue of a listed company, right? So now, these are the grounds on the basis of which any investor can file grievance, his or her grievance, to the Ombudsman officer. what is the procedure of reversal of grievance? In case the matter is not resolved by mutually acceptable agreement within a period of 1 month, that is, as and when the complaint is being filed to the Ombudsman office, Ombudsman officer, right? Within a 1 month, Ombudsman officer tries to resolve the issue which suits both the parties. When I am saying suits means that is whatever the redressal is, if it is whatever the grievance is, if it is a genuine grievance, in that case, the redressal Ombudsman officer see to it that both the parties can resolve this issue amicably. Means if supposing, for example, a shareholder has not received the dividend and if complaint is being filed to the Ombudsman officer, right? So the Ombudsman, what the Ombudsman will do is, it will give instruction to the company that look into the matter and the dividend has not been credited to the account of the shareholder, do it immediately, right? So, or means see to it, not do it, I will say see to it. And if the company finds that really because of any technical reason, because of the bank failure or because of any reason, the amount has not been credited, right? So the company will say, okay, it has been done, but because of the technical fault, the money was not being credited to the shareholder's account, and we are doing it right now, right? And the money is being transferred. So it means amicably the issue has been settled, right? So this way the Ombudsman tries to settle the issue amicably. If not, then the Ombudsman has a right to pass an order to award an adjudication shall be made by Ombudsman within a period of 3 months from the date of filing of the complaints. Friends, this timing is very, very important, that as and when the grievance is being lodged, within 3 months the issue must be settled. This is the role of the Ombudsman, that the issue must be settled. If within a month amicably cannot be settled, if because of any reason it tries to see that the issue is being resolved amicably, right? In that case it's fine. But if at all it cannot be resolved amicably, in that case the Ombudsman passed an order. Adjudication means passed an order that it should be done within this stipulated time. So apart from the Ombudsman, friends, means there is one office which is called Ombudsman, there is one officer called Ombudsman through which various grievances can be settled. Apart from the Ombudsman, there are other regulators also to whom you can approach. There are different regulators for different types of jobs or different types of work, right? So I am just naming them just for the sake of your knowledge, so that you can know it, that these are also regulators which are directly or indirectly connected with the investors in general who deals in the capital market, the primary market, right? So an investor may have complaint against any intermediary or participants which are dealt by other regulators and not by SEBI. Means SEBI does not directly deal with these type of complaints, but there are other regulators who deals with these type of complaints. Like supposing you have a complaint with a bank or a non-banking finance companies, right? Non-banking finance company which are not banks as per the definition, but they are in the finance business. I am not naming company, like there are many non-banking gold mortgage company. If I name a few, like say for example Muthoot Finance, there are many other finance companies which deals in the gold financing business, right? So if you have any complaint against, any grievance against the banks or non-banking finance, what you can do is, the regulator of the banks and the non-banking finance companies is basically, the regulator is Reserve Bank of India, right? So you can rightly, if you have a complaint, although because you say we are talking of the capital market, where does the banks comes in the picture? Because many of the capital market transactions are being done through banks only, right? So transactions are being done through, for an investor, bank is also needed for doing transactions in the capital market or the primary market, right? So if you have any grudge against, any grievance against, any investor has grievance against the bank or the finance companies, non-banking finance company, the matter can be taken up with the Reserve Bank of India, who is the regulator of banks and NBFCs, right? Similarly, unlisted companies. See, all listed companies comes under the purview of the SEBI directly, right? If you have complaint, grievance against unlisted company which are not listed in the stock exchanges, then Ministry of Corporate Affairs The Government of India's Ministry of Corporate Affairs, is the regulator of these companies. All these unlisted companies which are not listed in the stock exchange, you can put your grievance to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. All the insurance companies in India, not only there are government companies, government insurance company, even there are the private insurance companies, especially after liberalization of the insurance sector. Lot many private insurance companies have come in the picture, right? So all the insurance companies, brokers, agents, the regulator is insurance. When I'm saying brokers and agents, broker and agents of insurance companies, not broker and agents of the capital market, right? Not of the brokers of the Bombay Stock Exchange or the NSE through whom you purchase and sell the shares. I am talking of the brokers and agents of the insurance companies. So the agency which is normally popularly known as IRDA. IRDA means Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India. So if there is any grievance against the insurance company, all right, so the complaint can be filed. Since there are many the private insurance companies have come up over a period of time, so sometimes the investors have the people who invest in the insurance companies, invest means to get the policy in the insurance companies, whether it is health insurance, whether it is a life insurance or any type of insurance, right, general insurance. So if there are any grudge, any complaint, any grievance, the complaint can be filed or the issue can be resolved through IRDA, Insurance Regulatory Development Authority of India. If there is any grievance against pension funds, right? Earlier, all the pension funds, nowadays the pension funds are even managed by the authorized agencies, right? So if you have any grievance against the pension fund, the regulator is Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority, right? So PFRDA. PFRD is an agency which is a regulator for pension fund in the country. Similarly, for housing finance companies, the regulator is National Housing Bank. So what it means is, I have just named, we have not gone into detail, we have just named that when you are dealing in the capital market, when you are dealing in the primary market, right, there are certain other related finance related business, there are certain type of transactions that in common investors undertakes while investing point of view, for risk management point of view, right? So for purpose of the taking loans from for housing purposes. So if there is any grievances, these are the regulators to take care of their complaints. Now, after talking of these type of different regulators, let me talk in brief about the reforms brought up by SEBI. Friends, for this purpose, we can keep on talking, but I'll be talking in brief about some of the measures that has been taken up by the SEBI, that has been taken by the SEBI over a period of time, and this is a continuous process. Friends, this is not a one-time affair that SEBI takes some measures and sit on it. Because as and when, as I said in the beginning of my lecture, the capital market is progressing at a very fast rate, is increasing at a very fast rate. Since it is increasing at a very fast rate, certainly different type of problems comes across, and if SEBI finds that there is any specific problem which has not been dealt so far, or the new issue comes, the SEBI see to it that the interest of the investor is being taken care of, and the interest of the investor. Why the investor's interest is important? Friends, if you want to develop a sense of trust in any market, then only that market will develop. Means if we really want that the capital market in the country should grow, then it will grow only, people will invest money only when people have trust in the system, because the finance is involved, the people's money is involved, people's hard-earned saving is involved. And if people find that the transparency is missing, if people do not, then people will not have trust in that system, and less amount of investment will come. As in the past, some 10, 15, 20 years back, rather I would go back in history, before the advent of the SEBI, right? People were hesitant in investing in the capital market because the many companies used to practice the malpractices which was not in the interest of the investor. after the advent of SEBI, right, many of these malpractices have been checked, have been stopped, and people are having more and more. We say very proudly that Indian regulator, that is of the capital market, that is SEBI, is a very strong, effective regulator. It has proved over a period of time that it is an effective regulator, and because of this, more and more people are imparting their hard-earned saving in the stock market, right? So you have to create a environment of trust, which I can say with confidence that SEBI is able to impart confidence among the investors through various investors protection measures. So friends, I am closing here for this lecture, and I will be continuing with my investors protection reforms brought by the SEBI in my next lecture. Thank you.